Shalom, brothers and sisters. I'm Brother Sid of the Commandment Keepers Church. We have a detailed broadcast for our brothers and sisters internationally. The title of today's broadcast will be Modern Day Slaves. Modern Day Slaves. Today, we'll delve into the concept of technological censorship and its impact on the freedom of speech in our modern society. As we navigate the complex political environment of today, it becomes increasingly evident that there is a looming threat of censorship. Our topic of discussion, brothers and sisters, will be the Jewish community's plan to leverage the fear of anti-Semitism to eliminate freedom of speech. All right, so we're already seeing freedom of speech rebuked. Okay, and the algorithms of all the mainstream social media apps are designed to promote a lifestyle that aligns with liberal values. Okay, we have to be real here. Okay, so social media platforms are undoubtedly facilitating a progressive way of life, censoring any discourse that does not align with liberal ideas. Okay, no matter who you are, you will be silenced.
Tonight, a deafening silence from the president's Twitter account in his waning days as commander-in-chief. Twitter, run by CEO Jack Dorsey, saying after close review of the president's recent tweets, it banned him due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Twitter specifically warning, quote, plans for future armed protests have already begun proliferating on and off Twitter, including a proposed secondary attack on the U.S. Capitol and state Capitol buildings on January 17th. After the ban, the president tried to tweet from other campaign and staff accounts, triggering a game of whack-a-mole, with Twitter quickly taking down his posts. Many platforms have banned or restricted the president's accounts, including Facebook and Instagram, where he's blocked indefinitely and for at least the next 2 weeks.
It's a sad day when big tech has more power than big government, that they can censor the president of the United States.
Brothers and sisters, the elimination of freedom of speech is all too possible. It's all too possible, brothers and sisters. If the president of the United States can be silenced for his political views, what about you and I? Okay, and we're going to discuss this today. Why? Our conversation today will center on the Jewish community's scheme to use anti-Semitism as a pretext to eliminate free speech. Okay, let's go to Revelations chapter 2, verse 9, brothers and sisters. Follow us, right? We're going to begin in the last book of the Bible. Okay, because the Lord tells us why they would support policies that take away our freedom of speech. Okay, we're at Revelations chapter 2, verse 9, and it reads, I know your works and tribulation and poverty, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Brothers and sisters, notice this is in red. That means this is Christ. Okay, I'm going to read that again. Revelations chapter 2, verse 9 reads, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Brothers and sisters, the Bible states that there would be two separate groups contending for the recognition of the identity of the Jews. Okay, the passage explains that the authentic ethnic Jews would live in poverty, right? Take a look at this, because Christ is here trying to help us identify who the ethnic Jews would be, right? Revelations is a revealing of the end, right? So Christ says here in this passage, it explains that the ethnic Jews would live in poverty, right? It says, I know your works and tribulation and poverty, right? And I know the bold-faced lie of them which say they are Jews and are not. So, brothers and sisters, the passage explains how to determine which of the two of these people claiming this identity are the Jews, right? The passage suggests that the ethnic Jews would live in ghettos and would face economic hardships. Look up the definition ghetto. It's a housing quarter for Jews. That's the name. That's the name of a neighborhood of Jews. It's called the ghetto. Look it up. Look it up in your oldest dictionaries. Okay, Christ suggests here, right? Christ suggests that Jewish people are worshiping the devil in their places of worship known as synagogues. Right? Take a look at that. The text calls them the synagogue of Satan. We have to examine that. Why? Christ here raises concerns about the spiritual practices of Jewish religious institutions. Okay, because he's saying that the Jews who worship in synagogues would be those who are imposters, and they'll be worshiping Satan in their synagogues. This is Christ, right? This is in red. Okay, so in the entertainment industry, it's widely understood that there is a particular group of individuals you cannot offer criticism to if you wish to maintain a successful career. Okay, in the entertainment industry, it is widely recognized that there is a certain group of individuals who are off limits to criticism if you wish to sustain a successful career. Okay, remember, Kanye tried to tell us, remember that? Kanye tried to tell us all of the media conglomerates were owned by Jewish groups, and he was labeled anti-Semitic. Remember that, brothers and sisters? Guess what? Kanye incurred significant financial loss as a result of his quote unquote derogatory comments towards the Jewish religion.
Is over. The lucrative marriage between Adidas and Ye has ended over his anti-Semitic remarks. Corporate sponsors are now dropping the rapper and fashion mogul at a pretty rapid pace.
And Forbes magazine today dropped the artist off its billionaires list. CBS 2's Candace Crone is live in the Melrose district with reaction to this controversy. Candace.
That's right. Well, the owner of this shoe store says that the rapper's comments have really hurt employees and customers, and many are wondering if he can come back from a controversy like this.
No one canceled me. We deal with all. We just so numb to it.
Employees at the Cool Shoe Store on Melrose say they weren't surprised Adidas canceled its $250 million deal with Kanye West, now known as Ye, following anti-Semitic remarks he recently made. The rapper, who has previously acknowledged mental health challenges, seemingly taunts the shoe company in this video.
I could literally say anti-Semitic and they can't drop me. I could say anti-Semitic things and Adidas can't drop me. Now what?
Adidas issued a statement which reads in part, Adidas does not tolerate anti-Semitism and any other sort of hate speech. Ye's recent comments and actions have been unacceptable, hateful, and dangerous, and they violate the company's values of diversity and inclusion, mutual respect, and fairness. Not only did the shoe giant drop him, so did Gap and a major talent agency.
That's a huge blow to him and to his family and whatever dynasty legacy he's trying to create.
Kanye West suffered significant financial losses as a result of his derogatory remarks towards Jewish people, right? Individuals who offer critical commentary on the actions of Jewish people always face condemnation and public scrutiny. Okay, and that's what we're seeing here. Kanye West incurred significant financial losses as a result, right, of making a mild criticism of the Jewish people, right? See that? So we have to put it out there because why? Kanye's financial setback serves as a reminder that freedom of speech can be limited, particularly regarding the Jewish community. Okay, so here it is. He says something they deem anti-Semitic, allegedly, and he loses over $1 billion worth of contracts with several different brands. See that? So in the world of entertainment, it's commonly accepted that there is a particular group of individuals who are off limits when it comes to criticism if one hopes to maintain a successful career in the field. Okay? This unspoken rule is widely understood among the all of those working in the industry. Okay, let's be clear, because why? If the Jewish people are not the ethnic Jews from the Bible, we need to consider who they are. Okay, and this is why they don't allow freedom of speech. This is why they don't want freedom of speech, because this text, Revelations 2:9, says that there would be some imposters that would actually be using the identity of the Jews, the historical identity of the Jews, to worship the devil. Right? Christ prophesied this, and this is why Jewish people hate Christ. Ask them, do they believe in Christ? And you'll see the disgust on their face. Right? Christ stated that the Jewish religion is where Satan is worshipped, raising the question of why that particular group chooses to worship the devil. Okay? Who are the Jewish people if they're not the ethnic Jews mentioned in the Bible? Right? This question must be pondered because Christ is saying they're not who they claim. Christ mentioned that the Jewish faith is where Satan is worshipped, raising the question, brothers and sisters, why that particular group chooses to worship Satan. Follow us to 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 1 through 3. Why, brothers and sisters? We have to ask ourselves, who are these imposters? If Christ calls them imposters, if Christ says they're worshiping Satan, we have to look into who they are. Okay, this is very important because we don't see Christ condemning people as Satan worshipers many times in his word. Okay, so in the book of Revelations, the revealing of the last times, Christ revealed the Jewish population as worshipers of Satan through Judaism, right? Their religion. Okay, and we want to show you who were they in the Bible. They certainly weren't called Jews in the Bible. They were called by a different name, right? And they've been able to hide themselves and change their identity because they write the history books. So they are whoever they say they are, pretty much, right? The one thing they couldn't change was the Bible. Okay, we're going to 1 Samuel 15:1. Why? When Saul was selected to be the first king of Israel, when he was anointed by the prophet, when he was anointed, brothers and sisters, the Lord gave him a strict instruction to deal swiftly with a particular group of people. We're going to take a look at this, okay? We're at 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 1, and it reads, Samuel also said unto Saul, the Lord hath sent me to anoint you to be king over his people, over Israel. Let me read that again. 1 Samuel 15:1. Samuel also saith unto Saul, the Lord hath sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore listen thou unto the voice of the words of the Lord. Verse 2 reads, thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel when he laid wait for him in the way, and he came up from Egypt. Verse 3 reads, now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. Brothers and sisters, take a look at that. God has never before commanded the complete destruction of an entire group of individuals. This indicates their severity of wickedness. Okay, why, brothers and sisters, does God insist on complete annihilation of this particular family, commanding us to show no mercy? Right? Usually when you defeat a people in battle, you take what's called the spoils, right? So you take all of their resources, their cattle, their gold, their silver, their women, everything, right? And the Lord commands Saul, destroy them, exterminate them, and burn everything they have. Don't take it. Why? They've been worshiping the devil. Everything they got through worshiping the devil, right? And that's why we see here in verse 3, the Lord tells Saul, hey, even the even the smallest children, even the animals, he said the animals cannot be taken. Okay, they cannot be accepted. Okay, and we have to put it out there. Why? Today, those who identify as Jewish are called Amalek in the Bible, and they try very hard to conceal the fact that these passages relate to them. Okay, people who identify as Jewish today are called by the name Amalek in the Bible, and they would rather not admit these verses relate to them, right? We have to put it out there. Why? If you and your family were subject of these verses, would you want the world to know? Right? If the Lord had wrote this about you, to destroy your entire family, cattle and all, would you try to hide that? Think about it. Right? The reason Jewish people hold resentment towards God is discussed in this text. Right? The passage teaches us that they have feelings of hatred towards God due to his commands to Saul to exterminate their ancestors. Okay, think about that. The Jewish people despise God because they know that according to this passage, God commanded Saul, an ancestor of ours, to eradicate their entire community. Right? Now, we didn't do that, of course, right? But because God had a punishment planned for them, they tried to hide themselves by disguising their identity, right? So to conceal their genuine identities, they stole the identities of the people they had enslaved and forced their slaves to believe they were someone different. Genius, right? Right? The Jewish people despise God because all of the content that we're reading in chapter 15 of 1 Samuel. Okay, Saul was commanded to wipe out the entire bloodline. Because why? God knew that this bloodline would continue to worship Satan and look to destroy God's people. Okay? We have to put it out there. You are not allowed You are not allowed to speak about the Jewish community in any way, without receiving severe consequences. Okay? Severe consequences. Brothers and sisters, they are passing laws restricting free speech because they do not want you to discuss them at all. Laws are being introduced to restrict freedom of speech, particularly targeting hate speech. Okay, and this would result in the censoring of any content deemed as hate speech, including references to homosexuality as a sin in the Bible.
In Washington, the House has passed legislation creating a broader definition of anti-Semitism, and the change is meant to help the Department of Education enforce its anti-discrimination laws. That proposal passed 320 to 91 with bipartisan support. It would codify a formal definition of anti-Semitism in Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The language would also broaden the legal definition of anti-Semitism to include targeting Israel. Critics say the change could harm free speech on college campuses.
They are pursuing laws that attack free speech because they are trying to prevent any discussion related to them. Okay, their goal is to strip away free speech by doing what? Lobbying the government to pass legislation labeling any criticism of Jewish people hate speech. Okay, this is how they're going to do it. Right? The Jewish community wishes to keep their true identity hidden, which is why any criticism against them is viewed as anti-Semitism. Right? When we take a look here at 1 Samuel 15:3, the Lord says, kill all of them, including infants, including animals. Right? That's what the Lord said. Right? And we're here to tell you that these people, they still exist today. Right? And they follow a religion called Judaism, which is a hatred for the God of the Bible and Christ. Okay, the Jewish community wishes to keep their identity secret. Okay, and once this comes out, brothers and sisters, it all falls down for them, and they know that. So once this legislation is passed, this will not only pertain to the Jewish community. Criticizing any wrongdoing will be deemed a crime. Okay, so they're just using the Jewish community. All right, so laws, brothers and sisters, are being introduced to restrict freedom of speech, particularly any content deemed as hate speech will be subject to censorship. Okay, so when the Bible discusses homosexuality as a sin, making such a statement would be considered hate speech and prohibited. They are going to use anti-Semitism to take away free speech.
President Biden forcefully condemned hateful rhetoric and violence against Jewish people today during a ceremony remembering the victims of the Holocaust.
We've seen a ferocious surge of anti-Semitism in America and around the world. Too many people denying, downplaying, rationalizing, ignoring the horrors of the Holocaust. And October 7th, including Hamas's appalling use of sexual violence to torture and terrorize Jews. It's absolutely despicable, and it must stop.
His speech comes only days after the Anti-Defamation League and Tel Aviv University published a report revealing anti-Semitism soared across the U.S. last year. It shows the number of anti-Jewish hate crimes more than doubled between 2023 and 2022.
Brothers and sisters, follow us to Matthew 4. Why? Because we find the temptation of Christ. And when you examine how and what Satan tempted him with, it gives us great insight into how the Jewish people gained their ascendancy. Okay, how they gain their status, how they gain their wealth. Okay, we're at Matthew 4:8, and it reads, again, the devil takes him up into an exceeding high mountain and shows him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. Verse 9 reads, and saith unto him, all these things will I give you if you fall down and worship me. Verse 10 reads, then saith Christ unto him, get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Brothers and sisters, notice that Lucifer, Satan, offered Christ wealth and power if he was willing to worship. Notice that, right? Here we learn that from the time of Christ, Satan has always been willing to part with money to those who worship him. It is thus not shocking that the wealthiest members of today's society are almost universally engaged in some sort of devil worship. Okay, here we find that Satan has been willing to reward those who worship him with wealth and power since the time of Christ. Right? Many people believe that those who identified as Jews were the chosen ones in the Bible due to their wealth. However, the Bible suggests that being wealthy many times indicates a compromise with Satan. Okay, so the Bible revealed to us the source of the Jewish population's great wealth and power. Okay, it originates from their agreement with Satan. Why? Here he offers Christ rulership and power if he worships him. Brothers and sisters, somebody accepted that agreement. Satan took this same offer to Amalek, the children of those who God tried to destroy. Right? Satan took this same offer to them. Okay? And brothers and sisters, in the entertainment industry, as well as among athletics, it's widely recognized that developing positive relationships with the Jewish community is crucial for achieving financial success. Okay? Everybody understands that if you want to be financially successful in partnership with global brands, you must have a healthy working rapport with the Jewish community.
Comedian Dave Chappelle is facing new backlash over his opening monologue on Saturday Night Live.
He's being called out by some in the Jewish community who say his comments about anti-Semitism went too far. CBS 2's Jessica Moore explains.
I denounce anti-Semitism in all its forms. And I stand with my friends in the Jewish community. And that, Kanye, is how you buy yourself some time.
Dave Chappelle kicked off his Saturday Night Live monologue, appearing to give Kanye West a playbook on how to avoid blowback after making anti-Semitic remarks, a move that cost West $1.5 billion in partnership deals.
I have a lot of Jewish friends, so I'm not freaked out by your culture. I know a little bit about it just from hanging around. Like, yo, let's go out at school tomorrow. They'll be like, we can't go out. It's Shana tomorrow. I'll be like, where?
The president of the Anti-Defamation League blasted NBC, saying in part, disturbing to see NBC SNL not just normalize, but popularize anti-Semitism. Why are Jewish sensitivities denied or diminished at almost every turn? Why does our trauma trigger applause?
It is widely recognized among individuals in the entertainment industry that catering to the Jewish community is essential for financial success. Okay, so they are striving to restrict freedom of speech as they are aware that the Bible exposes the origins of their financial resources. See that? For us to point out that they got their resources from worshiping Satan, just like Christ said, that would be deemed anti-Semitic. Right? So those involved in the entertainment industry, they are aware of the importance of recognizing the Jewish community in order to achieve financial success. Okay? They all know it. Why? If you refuse to acknowledge the importance of Jewish culture and heritage, it will impact your opportunities for advancement and prosperity in the terms of wealth and income. Okay, so banning freedom of speech restricts individuals from expressing their opinions and beliefs openly. And when this fundamental right is taken away, it hinders the ability to voice opposing viewpoints. And guess what, brothers and sisters? As a result, living in a society without the freedom to disagree, that signifies the presence of an authoritarian regime. Okay? We have to put it out there. We have to put it out there because here we see that Christ is offered wealth and power to fall down and worship him. Right? And that links to who? Revelations 2:9, where the Bible says Amalek, also known as the Jewish people, would be worshiping Satan in their synagogues. Okay? So they got their wealth because they were willing to bow the knee. Okay? They were willing to bow the knee in order to get that wealth. Okay? And the Bible reveals them. Okay? This is why they're promoting this anti-Semitism. Okay? They're using it to do what? To attack freedom of speech. Okay, let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 9, brothers and sisters. Okay. We're going to stay in the New Testament. New Testament, 1 Timothy, the 6th chapter and the 9th verse. We're here at 1 Timothy, the 6th chapter, the 9th and 10th verse. Okay. Why? In Matthew chapter 4, we learn that Satan was willing to make Christ wealthy and rich if he was willing to worship him. Right? So we have to look at the wealthy and rich today. We're at 1 Timothy 6 and 9, and it reads, "But they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition." Verse 10 reads, "For the love of money is the root of all evil." For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Brothers and sisters, the Bible is very clear here. The Bible is very clear. According to the teachings of the Bible, achieving wealth often requires individuals to make compromises with their moral beliefs. Okay, the Bible teaches us that individuals with significant wealth are usually more inclined to compromise their principles in order to maintain their financial status. See, that only the Lord could let you know this, because according to the teachings of the Bible, the path to wealth often requires individuals to sacrifice their morals. Okay? So the Bible teaches us that individuals are willing to engage in more corrupt acts in order to retain wealth than they are to acquire it. Right? That means if a person has tasted a little money, right, they will do almost anything to keep that money coming in because they've established a certain lifestyle, right? Family and friends who've gotten accustomed to them living a certain way, and they want to make sure that You know, they uphold that image, right? So Satan knows that once people have money, they will go to great lengths to hold on to it in order to maintain their reputation, right? So take a look at that. According to the Bible, Satan and the Jewish society are all too happy but to reward prosper, they will reward you with prosperity and wealth to anyone who's willing to submit to their authority. Okay? The text is very clear, right? The text says, they that be rich fall into temptation. They fall into snares. Why? You become a greater slave as your wealth increases, because most will stop at nothing to maintain that status and preserve their money, right? So the Bible teaches us, the Bible instructs us that in the realms of entertainment and sports, the Jewish community holds the financial power. And if you wish to earn a profit, you must adhere to their methods. Okay? Anytime you make critical remarks about Jewish people, your wealth gets targeted. You need to sit back and examine them. We have to really sit back and examine that. Why? What is so special about them? According to the Bible, they were the people who were chosen by Satan. They were the ones who were willing to worship Satan for authority and power, for great wealth and riches. Right? The text is very clear. Your finances are targeted anytime you make a critical statement about the Jewish community, which reveals who is in charge of the money. Right? Remember, Kyrie Irving, the NBA superstar, sent out a tweet to a movie that questioned the authenticity of the Jewish state of Israel, and he was suspended from his job without pay.
We've got some breaking news tonight from the NBA. The Brooklyn Nets have announced that they are suspending point guard Kyrie Irving for at least 5 games without pay. The suspension comes after a recent controversy where Irving shared a link to an anti-Semitic film last week. The team says that he has refused to acknowledge that the documentary had hateful material. Mr. Irving also refused to unequivocally say that he has no anti-Semitic beliefs. A statement from the team reads in part, quote, "We are of the view that he, Mr. Irving, is currently unfit to be associated with the Brooklyn Nets. We have decided that Kyrie will serve a suspension without pay until he satisfies a series of objective remedial measures that address the harmful impact of his conduct," unquote. Again, the breaking news from the NBA. Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets is suspended without pay for at least 5 games after sharing a link to an anti-Semitic documentary on social media.
Kyrie was suspended and lost millions of dollars in contracts, including his Nike shoe deal, as a result of a single tweet. The only thing he did was tweet out the link to a movie that claims that the Negroes are the Jews of the Bible. Right? He offered no commentary. He offered no commentary whatsoever. So that means, hey, make no mistake about it, Kyrie Irving is aware that the African Americans are the true descendants of the biblical Jews, yet he risks financial consequences if he openly declares this belief. That's what he's learning. Okay? Kyrie tweeted a link to a movie proving that the Negroes are the biblical Jews, and he faced a suspension and a termination of his lucrative Nike endorsement deals. So that means what? Kyrie and Kanye demonstrate that freedom of speech is limited. It is limited. Okay? Kyrie and Kanye demonstrated that celebrities are essentially highly paid or highly compensated slaves. right? Celebrities do not receive compensation for their skills, okay? Rather, they are paid to remain silent and wield their influence in accordance with Hollywood's instructions, okay? So we have to put it out there. Why? Celebrities receive wealth not for their talents, but rather to maintain their discretion and wield their influence in accordance with the directives of Hollywood. Oh, brothers and sisters, follow us to Proverbs 15 and 27. Proverbs 15 and 27 reads, "He that is greedy of gain troubles his own house, but he that hates gifts shall live." Brothers and sisters, Proverbs 15:27 reads, "He that is greedy of gain shall trouble his own house, but he that hates gifts shall live." Brothers and sisters, the Bible states that in order to become rich, one must engage in actions that attract negative spiritual forces. Okay? More times than not, especially in the entertainment industry. Okay? So Satan and his preferred group, the Jewish community, dominate the financial system, tempting individuals to make moral sacrifices in order to attain long-lasting prosperity. Okay? They only shine the light on individuals whom they have already compromised beforehand. Okay, so if you demonstrate a willingness to compromise, they will continue to put you in compromising situations indefinitely. Okay? So according to the Bible, Satan and the Jewish people have historically employed bribery for manipulation purposes. Right? See that? So when Kyrie and Kanye West are criticized for not recognizing the Jewish community as the true descendants of the biblical prophets, they are targeted with financial attacks in an attempt to suppress their voices. Okay? Everybody knows that if you get on bad terms with the Jewish community, you will pay for it, literally. You will pay for it. Even Dave Chappelle knew. Okay, so this is a well-known non-secret amongst the entertainment industry. Okay, the Jewish public took over the financial system as they understood. They understood the need to pay for silence as they progressed. Right? So the Bible teaches us that in order to acquire substantial wealth, most people have been willing to make concessions. Okay, according to the scriptures, Satan and his followers, the Jewish public, have historically employed bribery as a means of exerting their influence. Why? Because they have control of the money. They have control of the money because they worship Satan. Right? So according to the teachings of the Bible, we are warned that the people will be tempted by Satan and his followers with the promise of quick wealth, but at the expense of worshiping Satan. Right here, we see the constant battle between good and evil, with the lure of material wealth being used as a tool by Satan to lead people astray from the path. Right? Satan has designed a sophisticated framework that encourages and upholds wicked behavior, brothers and sisters. Okay, so people who are being paid to suppress our voices are the ones being promoted as celebrities. Okay, this system incentivizes individuals to remain silent and to turn a blind eye to evil. Right? Take a look at that. The Bible says, "He that is greedy of gain troubles his own home." Why? Because who controls the money? See that? The person, the people, the group that control the money Okay, and if you want a little taste of that sugar, you better be willing to drop it low. Okay, you better be willing to drop it low. Okay, the Bible is very clear. He that is greedy of gain brings trouble to his home. Right? Because why? A lot of these athletes, a lot of these actors, a lot of these entertainers have signed contracts. Okay. A lot of them have signed contracts. Okay, let's go to Matthew 12. Let's go to the New Testament now. Let's go to Matthew 12, brothers and sisters. We're going to Matthew, the 12th chapter, in the 37th verse. Let's take a look. We're at Matthew 12 and 37. Highlight this, brothers and sisters. Notice it's in red. So this is Christ speaking. Matthew 12 and 37 reads, "For by your words you shall be justified, and by your words you shall be condemned." Take a look at that. Matthew 12 and 37 reads, "For by your words you shall be justified, and by your words you shall be condemned." Brothers and sisters, the Bible cautions us to exercise caution in our speech when within a society governed by the Romans. Right? Listen to what Christ says. He says, "By your words you shall be either justified or condemned." So it's important to keep in mind that the Pharisees and Romans were constantly attempting to trap Christ with his words, which explains why Christ was always careful and deliberate in his speech, right? The Holy Scriptures convey the message that our words can either lead us into difficulty or save us from adversity, brothers and sisters. Okay, this is Christ. This is Christ telling us, according to the Bible, our words have the power to either lead us into trouble or rescue us from difficult situations. Okay? So the biblical warning emphasizes the importance of being mindful and cautious in one's speech within a society where Roman governance is firmly established. Okay? The Bible says when you live amongst Europeans, it's their history to try to play around with words, okay? To try to entangle you in your speech, right? To try to take away your freedom of speech. Okay, so here Christ shows us the importance of how we use language in the last days. Okay? Matthew 12 and 37 reads, "For by thy words you shall be justified, and by thy words you shall be condemned." So Christ anticipated speech restrictions. Okay? He anticipated that. He knew, right? Christ told us that the words we choose to speak hold what, brothers and sisters? They hold great power in influencing the course of events and determining our destiny, right? By emphasizing the importance of mindful communication, Christ highlights the key role that what, brothers and sisters? He highlights the key role that language will play in determining the outcome, right? He's telling you, in the last days, your words will have great value, because if you speak incorrectly, you're gonna know about it. You're gonna know about it. We're living in a PC culture. Okay, anyone who casts doubt on the veracity of the Holocaust narrative or the legitimacy of the Jewish state of Israel will face financial reprisals. Okay, why are we putting that out there? Why are we putting that out there, brothers and sisters? Because the Bible says, based on what you say, is going to determine what happens. Okay, and we have to put that out there. We have to put it out there. Okay, brothers and sisters, if there is a group of people that we are not permitted to criticize, then we do not genuinely enjoy the freedom of expression, right? Because we don't have the freedom to express that, right? So think about that, brothers and sisters. Remember, there have been several Black male celebrities who have publicly said that they are aware that the Hebrew Israelites in the Bible were Black. And each time they've done so, they have been financially penalized by the Jewish group that runs the entertainment industry. Every single time. Every single time. Okay, so there have been many Black celebrities who have publicly stated that they believe the Hebrew Israelites mentioned in the Bible were Black. Okay, think about that. Every time, brothers and sisters, every time that a brother expressed his disdain for the Jewish community or his support for the what they call Black Hebrew Israelites, anytime that happens, guess what? You're going to face financial repercussions. Remember, brothers and sisters, Nick Cannon questioned the legitimacy of the Jewish identity. He admitted he was aware that the ethnic Jews of the Bible were Black.
Right. You can't be anti-Semitic when we are the Semitic people, when we are the same people that who they want to be. That's our birthright.
That's our birthright.
So if that's truly our birthright, there's no hate involved.
It's not.
How did this message get so misconstrued?
When we came back to claim it.
Right.
You
They want to mute the Hebrew.
They want to mute that.
Right.
You understand?
Even though we are the true Hebrews.
Exactly. So we can't even tell the truth now.
Right.
Not on record, not on television shows, not on YouTube.
Right.
Black men are starting to accept our true identity and are openly acknowledging it. Okay, whenever a Black celebrity openly acknowledges that the Negroes are the biblical Jews, they face public shaming. Okay, and not only public shaming, public economic penalties. Okay, Nick Cannon acknowledged years ago that he was aware that the Hebrew Israelites mentioned in the Bible were of quote unquote African descent. So anyone who questions the authenticity of the Holocaust story or the genuine nature of the Jewish state of Israel's will, okay, guess what? If you question their will to exist as the state of Israel, if you question the Holocaust, if you question the authenticity of their stories, guess what? You will be publicly shamed, okay? And you will have to deal with severe financial repercussions, okay? So a lot of people forget, years ago, Nick Cannon admitted that he knew the Hebrew Israelites described in the Bible were Black. He did that, okay? Anyone who publicly doubts the truth of the Holocaust narrative or the true identity of the Jewish state of Israel will face economic consequences as retribution. Okay. Let's go to 2 Timothy, right? The title of today's broadcast, The Modern Day Slave. Okay. The Modern Day Slave. Follow us to 2 Timothy 3 and 12. Okay, we're going to 2 Timothy, the 3rd chapter and the 12th verse. Okay, we're at 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 12. And it reads, yeah, All that will live godly in Christ shall suffer persecution. Let's read that again. 2 Timothy 3:12 reads, yes, and all that will live godly in Christ shall suffer persecution. Take a look at that. Take a look at that, brothers and sisters. All that attempt to live a virtuous life will suffer persecution. Brothers and sisters, according to the Bible, leading a morally pure life will require you to endure discrimination and forego financial gain. Okay, the text is clear. According to the Bible, any celebrity who is considering disclosing the truth about the identity of the Black people must also consider this passage. Okay, the Bible is very clear. Those who try to live a virtuous life will suffer persecution. Okay, they're trying to restrict our free speech. Okay, the Bible instructs us to live a righteous life, right? And if we're going to do that, we must be prepared to endure persecution. You have to be, right? When we closely study the passages, we discover that the author reminds us that rejection is a necessary part of the journey, right? Because we will encounter more rejection than acceptance, the author reminds us that we must have the ability to endure disapproval, right? You must be willing for people to have disapproval of you, right? The Bible instructs any person who wants to publicly spread the gospel and reveal the truth about the identity of the Negroes to be ready to make sacrifices. Okay, the Bible warns that those who openly strive to live righteously should expect to face criticism and public shaming. Many of us overlook the fact that Nick Cannon faced financial backlash after admitting that Black people were the ethnic biblical Jews. Okay, he was fired from several shows that he hosted, and the rights to his most well-known comedy were taken away.
Actor and producer Nick Cannon this morning fired for making some anti-Semitic comments on his podcast. Viacom CBS announced it is severing ties with Cannon after a long-running relationship back to his start on Nickelodeon in the 90s. On the podcast, Cannon called Black people the, quote, true Hebrews, and talked about some anti-Semitic conspiracy theories as well. Cannon responding to the outrage on Twitter, saying he has no hate in his heart and he does not condone hate speech, but he did not specifically apologize for what he said.
If you dare to publicly doubt the genuineness of the Jewish community, be prepared. Be prepared to suffer serious economic repercussions. Just ask Nick Cannon. Right? It's important to consider the implications of publicly casting doubt on the legitimacy of the Jewish community. Nick Cannon's case serves as a cautionary tale in this regard. Okay, any individual who dares to question the authenticity of the Jewish community in a public setting should be prepared for financial backlash. Nick Cannon did what? He did what, brothers and sisters? He showed us, right? He showed us the consequences of being honest, right? Even if you believe that Blacks are the true Jews, you're not allowed to say it out loud. Why? Because you don't have the freedom of speech. Here we've seen a plethora of Black celebrities, millionaires, even billionaires, who don't have the freedom to speak freely. Okay? All of these, super wealthy Black men who claimed that they believed the Negroes were the Jews of the Bible, they all lost hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more, Every last one of them. Okay? Because why? You don't have the freedom of speech, right? You have the freedom to say what you want, but you don't have freedom from the consequences that come with saying what you want, right? Take a look at that. The Bible says all those who live godly will suffer persecution, right? And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Okay, let's go to Isaiah 59 and 15, brothers and sisters. Okay, let's go to the Old Testament. We're going to the Old Testament, Isaiah 59, brothers and sisters. All right, Isaiah, the 59th chapter. We're going to read the 15th verse. Okay, Isaiah 59 and 15, and it reads, yes, truth fails, and he that departs from evil makes himself a prey. And he that departs from evil makes himself a prey. Brothers and sisters, the Bible predicts that there will be a threat to the freedom of expression, right? The selected agents of Satan know that incentivizing individuals to remain silent about wrongdoing allows evil to thrive. Okay, so the enemies of God begin to ban calling out evil by restricting freedom of speech, right? We have to keep an eye on this. Why? According to the Bible, during the prophetic era we are currently living in, denouncing evil publicly will lead to being labeled as an enemy of the government. Okay? The internet and social media platforms have implemented censorship, brothers and sisters. Okay, those who deviate from the government's authorized narrative will face censorship, period. Okay, so by enacting legislation that restricts our ability to express ourselves freely, what happens, brothers and sisters? We take one step closer to criminalizing the Bible. That's one step closer. Why? We, brothers and sisters, we are one step closer to making reciting the Bible illegal by enacting laws that restrict our ability to speak freely in any way. Okay? Jewish gatekeepers have lobbied the US government to adopt legislation that will make people accountable for possessing ideas that are not accepted by the government. We have to put that out there. Freedom of speech is a thing of the past, brothers and sisters. This is modern day slavery. Okay? This is technological slavery. This is technological what? Flogging and shaming. If you speak publicly against any of the pre-approved messages. Okay? A lot of us forgot you couldn't even speak against COVID. A lot of us forgot about that. You were not allowed to be on YouTube and speak against COVID. You can even say the word COVID. If you said the word COVID, you would get fact checkers to fact check your video. Right? Remember that? Let's go to Job, brothers and sisters. Let's go to Job 13 and 4. Okay? Let's go to Job 13 and 4. Okay? We're at Job 13 and 4, brothers and sisters. Job 13 and 4 reads, but you are forgers of lies. You are physicians with no value. Let me read that again. Job 13 and 4 reads, but ye are forgers of lies. Ye are all physicians of no value. Brothers and sisters, here the Bible highlights the unethical practices within the healthcare industry. Right? He says physicians of no value. Brothers and sisters, upon close examination of the passage, it becomes evident that God is raising concerns about the credibility of the healthcare system, right? The Bible foretold that the healthcare industry would become poisonous and destructive to the welfare of society. Take a look. Why? The Bible predicted that medical practitioners would be prescribing drugs that do not align with the symptoms exhibited by the patient. Right? The Bible tells us that. It says they are forgers of lies, physicians of no value. So here, what do we see? The Bible foretold that physicians would regularly receive compensation from pharmaceutical companies in order to prescribe their medications to their patients, right? Pharmaceutical companies offer financial incentives to doctors in exchange for prescribing their medications, even if these drugs have adverse effects on their patients, right? The Bible cautioned us that many doctors are prioritizing their financial gain over the well-being of their patient. Okay, there is widespread awareness of the monetary rewards provided to the medical professionals by the pharmaceutical corporations, leading to significant hesitancy among many individuals receiving the COVID vaccine. Okay, so during the period of the COVID pandemic, it was prohibited to publicly express dissent towards the vaccination. A lot of us forgot that, right? Many of us forgot that Nicki Minaj publicly expressed her reservations about the COVID vaccination and was publicly chastised.
Rap superstar Nicki Minaj is one of the best-selling and most popular female artists of all time. But now Minaj has ignited a firestorm for spreading vaccine misinformation, telling her tens of millions of social media followers that her cousin's friend became impotent after getting a shot. Well, that claim has now been debunked, and there's no science behind it. So why is the White House offering help? Here's CBS's Nancy Cordes.
Rapper Nicki Minaj is known for feuding with other stars like Miley Cyrus and Cardi B. But now she finds herself at odds with the White House.
Our hope is that anyone who has a big platform is going to project accurate information.
It all started Monday night when the unvaccinated singer tweeted, "My cousin in Trinidad won't get the COVID vaccine because his friend got it and became impotent. His testicles became swollen." Trinidad and Tobago's health minister debunked that the next day.
There is absolutely no reported such side effect or adverse event of testicular swelling in Trinidad, or I dare say, Dr. Hines, anywhere else? None that we know of anywhere else in the world.
White House staffers worried that the super bass singer with 23 million Twitter followers might give the vaccine a bad rap. By yesterday, Minaj was claiming she had been invited to the White House. The press secretary said, not quite.
Did the White House extend an invitation to Nicki Minaj to come here?
We offered a call with Nicki Minaj and one of our doctors to answer questions she had about the safety and effectiveness of the vaccine.
Right? It doesn't matter how well known of a celebrity you were. If you go against the pre-approved messaging, you will be censored. You will be publicly flogged. Right? When you live in a culture that does not value the Bible, you lose your freedom of expression. You lose your freedom of speech. Right? When we study the Democrats' political beliefs, we notice that they believe speech should be restricted. Right? If you comment negative about Jewish people or the LGBT community, you are committing hate speech and will face serious consequences. Okay, so they plan to exploit the Black community to advance their agenda of limiting free speech. They always use the Black community as the Trojan horse. right? And that's why brothers and sisters come to our channel, because they get the biblical perspective of current events, right? We're willing to stand firm and steadfast on what's right. Okay, we don't capitulate to the Black ideology or what Black people want us to think. Okay, we have to put it out there. Why? Whenever they need to introduce a controversial legislation, they exploit the Black community as a means to do so. Okay, so the Black community will be targeted as a means to undermine the freedom of speech. Okay, we know it because they've done this before. Okay, let's go to Acts 11, brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters, follow us to Acts 11 and 25. Acts 11 and 26. Why? Because we have forgotten, brothers and sisters, we have forgotten what freedom of speech is. We have lost our freedom to disagree. We've lost our freedom to freedom of speech. We've lost our freedom of religion. Okay? And we're going to utilize the Bible today. Why? The adversaries of God have become clever in altering the meanings of words over time. And today we'll uncover some of their deceptive tactics. Why? Why, brothers and sisters? The English language contains words that have multiple meanings. So it's important to trace the origins of words in order to fully comprehend them, right? Let's explore the term Christianity or Christian. Why? The meaning of the word Christian has evolved over years and is now being used in a misleading manner. Okay? And we have to put it out there. Why? The English language is widely known for being challenging to learn. Why? Due to the fact that the meanings of words can evolve over time, right? So over time, the meaning of a word like Christian has been evolved and is now being used in a deceptive manner. Okay, and we're going to break that down. We're going to break that down. Okay, we're at Acts 11 and 25. Okay, we're going to read 25 and 26. Acts 11 and 25 reads, "Thus departed Barnabas to Tarsus to seek for Paul, also known as Saul. And when he found him, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch." The disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. Brothers and sisters, think about that. They were called Christians first in Antioch. Brothers and sisters, the adversaries of God have become clever in altering the meanings of words over time. And today we're going to uncover their deceitful tactics, because the text is telling us right here, right, that the disciples never referred to themselves as Christians. Okay, the Bible tells us the disciples or the followers of Christ never referred to themselves as Christians. That was a term given to them by the Romans who killed Christ. See that? Take a look at it. Take a look at it, because Antioch, right? It says they were called Christians in Antioch. Brothers and sisters, Antioch was the third most populated city in the Roman Empire. Okay, indicating that the majority of its population consisted of Caucasian people. Okay, so the Romans were the ones who gave the disciples Christians as a title. Okay, the disciples did not give that title to themselves. right? And we have to put it out there, okay? The disciples did not use this term to describe themselves. That's why the passage says what? They were called Christians. Where? In Antioch. Right? So according to the Bible, the Europeans living in Turkey, okay, because that's where Antioch is. Antioch is modern day Turkey, brothers and sisters. Okay, and the Bible tells us the Europeans living in Turkey began referring to the black men who followed Christ as Christians. Okay, the term Christian was assigned to the followers of Christ in order to distinguish them from their other, from the other black Jews who were not followers of Christ, right? The Europeans in Turkey gave the black men who followed Christ the name Christians, according to the Bible. Okay, we have to put it out there. The term Christian was used to differentiate the followers of Christ from the other black Jews. Okay? Here in America, brothers and sisters, we have a group of individuals who use they, them as their personal pronouns, which is horrendous grammar. Okay, and because of how they're rewriting the rules of grammar and the definitions of words, we have to trace words back to its etymology, brothers and sisters. We have to trace words back to its etymology. Okay? Let's go to Acts 13:1. Okay, let's talk about the N-word. Let's talk about the N-word, brothers and sisters. Let's go to Acts 13. Brothers and sisters, follow us to Acts 13. Why? The Bible warns us not to trust the government. Okay? Do not trust the government or the media. Why? The media is connected to the government. Okay? Corporate media is linked to the government. Okay? And guess what? They're going to try to use black people. They're going to try to exploit us, to use us to march, right? To limit the freedom of speech. They've already laid the ground. They've already laid the foundation. Okay, they've already laid the foundation when they convince black people that anytime a white person says the N-word, the world needs to stop. Okay, this is a ploy. They want us to die on that hill so they can take away the freedom of speech. That's what they would love. Okay, so we want to put it out there. We're at Acts 13:1, and it reads, now, there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that were called Niger or nigger, right? Now, the Edomites, the Europeans down south, they had that southern twang. They would say nigger, right? Take a look at this. It tells you the first disciples or the first quote unquote Christians were called nigger or niger or black. Take a look at that. Take a look at that. Why? We're going to offer a quick overview, right, of the N-word's history using the Bible, right? The text says there were certain prophets where? In Antioch, right? Remember, in Antioch, we're the first Christian, right? The first Christians were called what? Niger or nigger, okay? And we want to put it out there. We want to put it out there. Why does it matter when a black man, why doesn't it matter when a black man uses the N-word, but the moment it crosses the lips of a white man, it immediately takes on a lot of power? We have to really examine ourselves. Why? The insincerity of the black community is demonstrated by the fact that while we use the N-word 100 times a day without taking offense, the moment A white man uses it, we become inconsolable. We just have to be authentic here. Why does it seem like we prioritize the way white men communicate with us over the way we communicate with each other? Okay. Why do the voices and opinions of white people hold such importance in the eyes of the Black community? Okay. Every time we become angry and offended when a white man uses the N-word, we are inadvertently supporting white supremacy, brothers and sisters. Why? This is because when a Black man uses the same word, the N-word, it doesn't affect us the same way. Right? So when we attempt to control, right, or thwart the words that Caucasian people are able to say, it marks the initial stage in the erosion of the fundamental right to free expression. Okay, when we attempt to restrict the speech of white people, we are starting down a path of suppressing freedom of expression. Okay, they're going to use us. They're going to try to use the Black community. Why? When members of the Black community become upset over a white person using the N-word, it brings us closer to jeopardizing our freedom of speech. Okay? And I have to put it out there. Black people should not become emotional or upset when other racial groups use the N-word. Why? It's a term originating from the Bible. As we just saw, the first disciples, Barnabas, right? Barnabas and Simeon were called Black or nigger or niger. See that? So we need to have the etymology of the word, because if you allow the media to spin this, they're going to continue to promote this racial division. Okay? And we want to put it out there, brothers and sisters. Freedom of speech is under attack, and they're going to use us. They're going to use the Black community to do it. How do we know? Recently, we had an NBA player tell the national media that at a basketball game, his brother was called the N-word. And it, of course, made national headlines across the country. Okay? They're going to use our people as political pawns to beg the government for them to limit the freedom of speech.
My little brother in the stands the other day was, called the N-word, and so like it was important for us as a family to just address that, and that was important for us to talk about, because that just didn't sit right with anybody in our in our family, and so it's just been important to have my family here right now, and my little brother's handled that the right way. So
they're going to use us and our lack of emotional discipline to beg the government to begin limiting speech. Okay, they intend to use our people and our lack of emotional control to persuade the government to begin restricting what? Restricting the freedom of speech because white men are using the N-word. Okay, this was a professional athlete, a pampered millionaire who made headlines when he shared with the media that his brother was subjected to a derogatory term during a game. And this sparked widespread attention nationwide. Why? Brothers and sisters, they plan to exploit us and our inability to control our emotions. Okay? The United States government is going to utilize us to restrict the freedom of speech. Okay? And we have to put it out there. We have to put it out there. When we get bent out of shape over a white person utilizing the N-word, you have to let it go. Okay? Because the moment we start limiting speech, they're going to start limiting biblical speech. Right? We have to be very careful about this. Okay, we have to be very, very careful about this, brothers and sisters. Let's go to Matthew 24 and 30. All right, we're going to go to Matthew 24 and 30, and we're going to end it here, brothers and sisters. All right, so we're going to the gospel, Matthew 24 and 30. The title of today's broadcast, Modern Day Slave. Modern day slave. Right? We're at Matthew 24 and 30, and it reads, "Then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven, and with power and great glory." Brothers and sisters, the Bible tells us what happens when Christ returns. Right? Analyze how the world reacts to the second coming of the Messiah. Right? Examine the global reaction to the arrival of the Messiah. Right? Take a look at that. The text says, "And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn." That means at the second coming of Christ, instead of celebrating, the nations of the earth will be filled with sorrow. Let's think about that. Why? Brothers and sisters, Christians have imparted the belief that the earth will rejoice upon the return of Christ. Yet, the text says something different. The text presents a divergent account. Okay, here we discover a major doctrinal error that the Christian church has endeavored to impart upon us. Okay, they circulated the deceitful idea that the earth would be jubilant to receive Christ once again. The Bible rejects that idea. Okay, that is not a biblical idea. The Bible tells you that the earth hates Christ, and they're going to cry. They're going to weep and mourn when they see him. Why? Because they understand that freedom of religion is done. Okay? Freedom of religion is done. Right? And that's what comes next, brothers and sisters. That is what comes next. Okay, the Christians have been deceptive. They taught us that people were looking forward to Christ coming. I'm going to read that again. Matthew 24 and 30 reads, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth cry. And then shall all the tribes of the earth cry." Okay? So we had to put it out there, brothers and sisters. We have to put it out there. The world, the secular world, is not looking forward to Christ coming back. Okay, and that's why they're doing everything they can to limit our speech. Okay, the title of today's broadcast, The Modern Day Slave. Okay, the modern day slave. Why? We wanted to utilize the Bible to show you, brothers and sisters, to show you why the Jewish community is trying to promote a country where we don't have freedom of speech. We wanted to utilize the Bible to reveal who they truly are and what the Lord promised them. Okay? The title of today's broadcast, The Modern Day Slave. We want to say, Kwam Yasharala, sin no more.